Governor Ducey has modified the stay-at-home order that was to expire at midnight on Thursday, and he's extending it to May 15th. He is allowing some business to get back into business, specifically small retail shops. They can open starting Monday under very specific guidelines. The aim is for restaurants to open sometime in mid-May, giving them time to get safety precautions together and plan a reboot. Not opening yet, however, bars, gyms, movie theaters, barbers, and hair salons. And Governor Ducey had a warning.
This is an order that is enforceable by law. A violation is a $2,500 fine and up to 6 months in jail. And for those that own an establishment and are publicly going to flaunt the order, you are playing with your liquor license. Don't do that.
Some tough talk there from the governor. One other piece of news today, President Donald Trump is expected to visit the Valley sometime next week, possibly on Tuesday, a day after the modified order takes effect, allowing some shops to open. He could visit a plant that makes masks here. We suspect that would be the Honeywell plant in Phoenix, but again, details are still not nailed down. Mark?
Graham, let's discuss for a second. You asked the governor a question on the data that was used that led to his decision to extend it to May 15th.
Yeah, we had let's call it a vigorous back and forth on that. I told the governor that he had told us that this was going to be a data-driven decision on when Arizona should reopen. I told him he had not presented any data that supported any kind of reopening. He pushed back hard on that, suggested there's some data on ER visits, but it's clear from his response that Arizona still has not come close to satisfying any of the guidelines the CDC has laid down for reopening business. And yet he is still going ahead with this kind of soft reopen next week, and then the likely restaurant reopening around mid-May. Mark?
The topic of coronavirus cases and deaths in nursing homes is a very hot-button issue for a lot of people, Bram.
It is, and for folks who are watching this news conference, it blew up at the end as we asked the governor and Kara Christ a lot of questions about nursing homes and specifically transparency. Nursing homes are not required by the state to reveal how many sicknesses, coronavirus sicknesses, they may have, and also how many deaths they may have. The state has stood behind different explanations. It's against state law. It's against federal requirements. To the best of our knowledge, there is no law that prevents this. No, black and white law that prevents this. And yet, Governor Ducey and Kara Christ continue to defend it. Governor Ducey's fallback is his mother is in a nursing home. Of course, we wish her the best. Is in a nursing home, and he's comfortable with the way things are right now. But again, the important point here is nursing homes have become hotspots for the coronavirus every day. When DHS reports new deaths and new cases, especially here in Maricopa County, you'll often find deaths in nursing homes make up half or more of the new ones. This battle will continue, Mark.
Really a similar scene all across the country, nursing home deaths. A vulnerable population, obviously. We've talked about that. But you also have a lot of people stuck together in Arizona's state prisons. What is he saying about that?
Again, very defensive. The governor says he is comfortable with what the prisons are doing. Challenged me when I said there's no transparency there. They aren't doing enough tests. If you look at the department's own data, they've barely done any tests of their 43,000 inmate population, as well as detention officers. And as far as I know, about 2 days after the coronavirus-related death of an inmate was confirmed, the Department of Corrections still has not confirmed it. So the Pima County Medical Examiner said, yes, this inmate died from coronavirus complications. The corrections chief, David Shin, still will not confirm it. A very tough situation. Nursing homes are hotspots, and prisons are hotspots nationally as well, and yet we're still not getting a full picture of that. Mark?
And what do they both have in common? A bunch of people thrust together in situations that are they're not social distancing necessarily. Bram, thanks.